Deserts. At night, it gets cold. Temperature drops below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. During the day, it's time to find a spot to hide from the heat, reaching up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. No, this isn't a riddle. We're talking about deserts. Huge temperature swings aren't the main problem in this lifeless area. It's just hard to live there because there's almost nothing around except endless sandy stretches with patches of greenery and cacti. Of course, somewhere a fennec might pop up, somewhere a mouse might scurry by, and a couple of bugs might fly around. But the fact still stands, such a place is pretty inhospitable for life. We humans can adapt to just about anything, but we still tend to steer clear of lifeless areas. You can easily lose your life there. Imagine if most of the sandy seas and oceans changed their color from yellow to blue. And this isn't just a fantasy. One country has big plans for its deserts. The project. Who do you think dreams of a scene like this? Definitely China. Why is that? Well, let's start by saying that deserts are a real problem for China. According to official data, there are over 1.2 million square miles of land in the People's Republic of China that have degraded to this state for various reasons. Just to give you an idea, that's about a third of the country, which has a total area of around 3.7 million square miles. The worst part is that a big chunk of these areas, which are not great for any normal living or agriculture, consist of actual deserts. Nevertheless, deserts and other unproductive lands, for various reasons, could soon be drastically reduced. China's tackling this challenge head-on and is already seeing results. First of all, let's talk about another grand project from the People's Republic of China. We're talking about a water transport tunnel that's set to change one of the least useful areas into something more productive. This is the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, or simply Xinjiang. To start, it's worth mentioning that the area located in the northwest of China is the largest region by area in China, spreading over more than 617,000 square miles. It seems perfect for developing agriculture, but as of 2015, only 9.7% of the land was suitable for that. Why? The majority of the region is dominated by the Tian Shan, Pamir, Karakoram, and Altai Mountains. The sites are incredibly beautiful, but you can only really live or farm or raise animals in a few spots at the bases of the mountain ranges. But naturally, a tunnel going through the mountains isn't going to solve all the problems. Another problem in the area is that a vast chunk of it's covered by deserts. Let's skip Gorban Tunga and Kumtag and go straight to the Taklamakan Desert. So let's put it this way. We're looking at a lifeless, sandy sea. It's not surprising that Taklamakan means abandoned, deserted place in Uyghur, and it's huge. This desert is the biggest in China and takes the top spot on the list of the largest deserts with moving sand dunes. How can one clearly show its size? Well, look at Germany. It covers almost 138,000 square miles. The area of the Chinese desert is about 130,000 square miles. So you get why it's perfectly reasonable to call it massive. The area's lifelessness is due to both the climate and the fact that all rivers only reach 60 to 125 miles into its territory before they dry up in the sands. Only one river gets the job done, the Hotan River. It carries its waters to the Tarim River, which runs along the western and northern borders of the Taklamakan Desert. Also, the lack of fertility is due to the groundwater depth reaching 10 to 16 feet here, which typically serves as an impassable barrier for plants. Since there are spots where the groundwater's closer to the surface, you can find at least some sparse vegetation. As for the animal life, it's probably best not to even mention it. Clearly, there are problems there too. Overall, the largest region in China is essentially a bunch of problems that make it tough to set up a reliable power source. And just to transform the desert into some water areas, China's come up with an ambitious project to move water around. And where exactly do they plan to get this water? Well, China's decided to adopt a popular solution these days: make use of the resources from the Himalayas. Specifically, they're looking to get water from the Yarlung Tsangpo, which is the longest river in Tibet and the fifth longest in China overall. It runs for around 700 miles, plus it's the highest river. It flows at over 11,500 feet above sea level. Basically, they'll have to dig a tunnel through the endless Himalayan rock from a really high point. Good thing we've got loads of tech these days that can make a project like this happen. The tunnel. To create a tunnel through the majestic Himalayas, the Chinese can definitely use tunnel boring machines. They're not a cure-all for such a complex situation, but they can help get things done a lot faster than other methods. For instance, there's a machine called Bella. It's said to bore at a speed of up to 30 feet a day and works around the clock, 7 days a week. But there's one catch. They need to transport this 4,000-ton behemoth, keep it maintained, and supply it with a massive amount of energy. And all of this needs to happen over a considerable stretch of 620 miles between the water intake and the point where it'll be released. It's tough, but doable. Experts say that the water tunnel under construction in Yunnan will help bring this ambitious project to life. Its length is definitely shorter, about 372 miles. However, there are over 60 mountain sections that allow 2 high-speed trains to pass through the barrier at once. The use of 25 reverse siphons, 17 aqueducts, and 15 drainage pipes gives the Chinese additional experience with such a system. And of course, we can somehow predict the cost. According to some sources, the Yunnan project ended up costing around $12 billion. Also, by looking at the project, you can sort of assess its effectiveness and impact. Experts are planning that the younger sibling of the future project will improve water access for 11 million people spread across 35 countries in Yunnan, covering a total area of about 14,200 square miles. Plus, the project doesn't feature a dam, which means it's expected to have a low impact on the river's source from which the water's taken. Well, it seems like there will soon be millions of gallons of water in Xinjiang, turning some lifeless desert or other barren areas into not so paradise, but a much more livable place for decent life and farming. By the way, the tons of water that'll come through the tunnel might not be the only massive body of liquid in this inhospitable region. Back in the middle of the last decade, Professor Li Yan, along with a group of scientists from the Xinjiang Institute of Geography and Ecology in Urumqi, talked about the terrifying amount of water beneath the desert area in northwest Xinjiang, under the Tarim Basin. This was further emphasized by the remark that people have never dared to even imagine that much water under the sand. According to scientists, the amount of hidden water beneath the surface could be 10 times greater than the total volume of all 5 Great Lakes in the U.S. And let's not forget, those lakes hold about 6,000 cubic miles of water. So experts are talking about over 53,000 cubic miles of water. That sounds great, except for one thing. The people who discovered this underground ocean say it won't be useful anytime soon because the water down there isn't just salty, it also has a ton of carbon dioxide in it. Desert Sea. But let's get back to the Xinjiang Uyghur region. It seems like China's really focusing on transforming it. Experts are set on turning the region's inhospitable water bodies into a real source of seafood. We should point out why this choice is particularly astonishing. The Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is the most remote area from the seas in the whole world, and they're growing seafood here, which is quite unexpected. In the city of Tumshuk, farmers have built ponds for fish farming on saline alkaline soil. Farmers grow marine fry in greenhouses, helping them adapt to the not-so-friendly local environment. When the temperature's just right, the little fish are taken outside to those very ponds. There, trace elements and probiotics are added to the saline alkaline water to create artificial seawater. Moreover, salmon is farmed in the region, and more specifically on the edge of the Taklamakan Desert. Of course, people didn't fill all those lakes on their own, but you've got to admire the Chinese. They figured out that picky fish can be raised in local waters and built their own farms. How did they please the finicky salmon? First, the local water can be really good for breeding because of the melting glaciers in Tian Shan. The average temperature of the water is around 54 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year. Additionally, the water is clean and slow, just right for ocean fish. The breeding takes place in special pens where predators can't get in, but people can move around easily, making it way easier to take care of things, deliver the roe, and catch the fish. Freshly caught salmon is delivered to a chilling unit that freezes the fish at temperatures below 41 degrees Fahrenheit, after which it's delivered to a nearby processing and packaging factory. This use of water resources in less favorable regions has resulted in the local salmon catch reaching about 7,000 tons by 2024. And this is how, on the edge of the Taklamakan Desert, they're harvesting, believe it or not, crabs. Nature around here is always trying to fill the land with water. Take the Yulong River, for instance, which pours water into spawning ponds when the floods hit. But let's not forget that the local lands are extremely unproductive. The huge amounts of alkali and salt found in them aren't exactly bros to most animals. That's why they're farming a super resilient crab. Crabs in the Taklamakan Desert are connected in ways you might not expect. In the Nanpi Reservoir of Moyu County, which borders this expansive desert, they regularly import a significant quantity of crab larvae. It's a kind of crab farming, but with a unique twist. To be more precise, they specially bring in meltwater from the mountains to the reservoir. It's just perfect for raising these animals. In other aquaculture sites, the Chinese are just transforming unfit areas into usable ones. They take water from ordinary salt lakes, then dilute it with beneficial minerals and other elements, creating artificial seawater. Sandy Fish Farm. But the Chinese weren't done with their mission to pump as much water as they can into the Taklamakan Desert. See those two pools in a building? Right here in the middle of the desert, while tons of plants can't grow nearby, clever Chinese have set up an entire fish farm. Goon Yunhun came up with the idea of growing marine fish in the desert. He conducted thorough market research and made numerous field visits, after which he noticed that as people's living standards rise, the demand for high-quality seafood increases. At the same time, despite the harsh natural conditions, desert regions have unique advantages for cultivating some marine organisms due to the abundance of sunlight and significant temperature swings between night and day. With this in mind, Goon Yunhun developed a detailed fish farming plan and decided to set up an operation. According to the farm manager, since June of this year, when the water quality in the ponds met standards, the first batch of sea creatures was released. 100,000 fry of rare sea fish like silver pomfret, rock bass, mullet, mottled spinefoot, and eel. Thanks to careful care, the fry survival rate exceeded 99%. The farm covers about 3 acres and includes 2 fish ponds, 1 fish breeding pool, and 1 standardized workshop for seafood production. In addition to raising saltwater fish, 2 million pearl oysters and some types of marine mollusks were also released into the ponds for test purposes. Goon Yunhun shared that it took only about 4 months from the start of construction to the official launch of the fish stocking process. The fish fry grew really well, increasing in size from 1.2 to 3.1 to 3.5 inches. Goon Yunhun and his team not only developed an eco-friendly smart circulation system that maintains a consistent temperature, but they also made significant advancements in specialized technologies for seafood farming in saline and desert environments. By implementing smart technologies, the farm has achieved zero antibiotic usage, zero emissions, and zero pollution. Remarkably, everyday pond management now requires just 2 people. High-quality seafood is well-positioned to gain market recognition, so Goon Yunhun is working to strengthen ties with distributors in various regions, participating in agricultural trade shows, and employing e-commerce platforms to widen distribution channels, allowing more people to enjoy seafood delicacies from the depths of the desert in the future. Goon Yunhun also noted that the farm plans to actively explore a model that integrates marine fishing with the tourism industry, transforming the farm into a multifunctional demonstration center that combines fish farming, tours, and recreation. Sea rice. In fact, if we talk not about fish farming, but about cultivating various crops in challenging terrains, the Chinese have some impressive techniques to share. We've already mentioned that barren lands are a common thing in China, but what really annoys gardeners, farmers, and people in agriculture is that the soil is saline alkaline. There are around 386,000 square miles of it in the country, which is roughly the size of Egypt. So you can see how much of this type of land there is. The most common crop in China, rice, can't thrive in that kind of soil. It's really sensitive to salinity, acidity, and alkalinity levels. In 1986, a Chinese scientist named Chen Risheng was digging around in the mangrove trees on the beach when he stumbled upon a green shoot sticking out of the ground. He gathered about 500 of them from the area and set out to do some breeding. By 1991, this process led to the development of around 8 pounds of resilient rice grains, which was later named Sea Rice 86. You can easily grow it in heavily saline and alkaline soil for up to 6 years. Speaking of salt, this variety can handle 3 times the concentration of any other rice. Not only does it survive, but it also improves soil quality twice as fast. On top of that, this rice is pretty tough. It's resistant to flooding, diseases, natural disasters, and doesn't need fertilizers. And for those who love good food, it's much more nutritious than other kinds. So far, salt-tolerant rice hasn't fully integrated into the community and market, but the process is definitely underway. For example, in 2021, a research team collected a harvest from 0.4 square miles of land and then got another 1,540 square miles for planting. The farmers liked it so much that they said they'd be able to grow salt-tolerant rice on 25,900 square miles by 2031. This kind of rice alone won't solve the food crisis, but combined with projects that can partially turn deserts into seas, lakes, and oceans, China can solve a bunch of its problems.